Hello everyone and welcome to SharePoint Power Hour. I'm Laura Rogers and here we have
Joelle Johnson. Hello. Reporting live.
yes we are both on video. We went for years and years with just Joelle being on audio because the software we had was crappy and it would slow the whole computer down. It would crash whenever we would try to do two people. So we have new software. So here's Joelle. You get to see her now. Yay. So this is SharePoint Power Hour. This is the show that we do Wednesdays at 11 Central. And you all vote on our topics, which makes it really fun. So I sent out a newsletter before Power Hour. You all voted on the SharePoint highlighted content web part this time. And so that's what we're going to be doing a demo of. Power Hour is all about doing demos of things that are geared towards more power users and not super technical. So the fun part about Power Hour is we have chat. We used to have chat that we would chat in Slack, and we had every single week and more people would ask, why aren't we doing this in Teams? So we're doing it in Teams. So I'll go ahead and share my screen real quick and tell you how to get over and show you how to get over to Teams. All right, so here is, let's get it over to Teams. Okay, that is awkward because it's like showing the video inside of the video. So there's Teams. So we go to the, if you're just in your own company, you're going to have a little toggle button up here after we've invited you and you joined. You're going to be able to toggle over to IW Mentor Power Hour up here. And then when you go to the Power Hour General channel, I have put the Power Hour today's Power Hour as a tab up here. So if you don't, you're not going to automatically see that little chat on the right side, but if you push the little chat button, and we're learning Teams too, right? You're getting used to it. There's a little chat button. Then here's our chat that we're having during Power Hour. So you get to watch the video and chat just right next to the video. So that's even more sort of combined than it was. It wasn't really combined at all when we were in Slack. So that's how to get over there. So I'll go ahead and flip back real quick. So today we're talking about the highlighted content web part, which is, I think, the most powerful and flexible web part that we have in SharePoint. And there are just a lot of things it can do and a lot of different ways you can configure it. So this is going to be less of a brand new thing and less of a superpower user thing. This is going to be more of a beginner to medium level. So you're not going to learn anything extremely mind-blowing from this one. But you might just learn some new things about that you didn't realize that the highlighted content web part could do, because there are just so many different ways you can set it up. And we've had other Power Hours where we covered web parts and where we use this web part for different things, but this one's just all about that web part. Okay, so I will flip back over to sharing my screen. And there's Joelle in the window too, right above. That's so fun. Okay, so I'll move the chat out of the way. And I just created a new page. I just created a new page in SharePoint, and I called it highlighted, and I've got nothing on it. So I'm just going to go ahead, and you can't see the navigation, which is not important. It doesn't matter. So that's all Joelle's face is covering up right now. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and just start by adding a highlighted content web part, and that is going to be right here on, it's one of the first 6 things you can add, or you can search like that. And the first thing that the highlighted content web part does is it puts just some recent documents here. It's just kind of guessing at what you might want. And the first thing you do is go to the edit web part. One of the things that I've come to realize that this is kind of confusing for people is that you have kind of some little settings and things way over here on the left. That's the section that you're in. And then you have some things next to each web part. So that is how you get to the web part settings. The cool thing I can do with the section is that I can make it, have a different background shade. But then you have to hover over the web part to see its settings. So These are the Webpart settings. And let me know if you think I need to change my screen resolution, if this is not clear enough for you. Because I just recently started using this, just a more of a normal screen resolution as opposed to the really big one, since it seems like this new software can handle it better. And so the first thing it's showing you, it's got some default settings, and it's showing you documents from this site. So one of the things I can do is look at the source, and the source is where are the documents coming from. So I had a customer recently ask me, hey, how do I change the filter on this web part? Well, it's not the thing that they were trying to do was not filtering. They were just trying to change where the content was coming from. So it's kind of like you're filtering it in a way, but you're really just changing it to what location in SharePoint you're getting your data from. So I've got this site is the default. Then I've got a document library on this site, and then you would pick a specific document library. And then I've got this whole site collection, which is going to roll up all the content from any document libraries and in the site collection. Of course, nowadays we use everything as a site collection, right? Every site we do is a site collection. We used to have all these, back in the old days, we did subsites, which are not a thing anymore, right? So we don't have subsites anymore. Anyway, page library on this site is very specific. So this is going to be just that, just a library on this site that's got pages in it. Got pages and news are the two types of things that are in the pages library. And then, so you could, as you can see, as I'm changing what my source is, these next settings right underneath it are changing. So then when I change it to select sites, that's where I can hand pick, I can cherry pick the specific sites that I want to show content from. That way it's not just all sites or this site. It's, I can show from modern demo, corporate travel, and just, I can specifically pick them. And if I don't see them in this little list, I can search for a site. Because, you know, obviously if you have hundreds of sites in your tenant, you're not going to see them all in this tiny little area. And then you can just do all sites. And that's just going to roll up your content from everywhere in SharePoint. And when you pick all sites, and again, all your settings are going to be different depending on what you have down here. Now, if you're coming from classic SharePoint and you're just now getting over to modern, this is the equivalent of the search results. Was that what it was called, Joelle? Search results web part?
Content search web part.
Oh, the content search web part. And then you used to do a lot with this all the time, didn't you?
Yeah, quite a bit, because that was our best option for any kind of filtering or querying.
Yeah. What were some pros and cons and like compared to the way it is now?
I would say the biggest, so I would say pro would be you had a lot more like control over, you could really be granular with like what you were pulling in, and you could write some really interesting like queries and stuff like that. But it was complicated, so you had to like know what you were doing in order to do it. And I would say the better thing now with the highlight content web part too is that it's a lot easier from the filtering. A lot of that filtering is just built in instead of having to write these like actual queries. And also just the appearance of it. So with the content search web part, you were stuck to very limited, like what it would look like was very limited, and you would have to get a developer to make it look any better.
Oh my gosh, that's a pain.
Display templates, everybody.
Oh.
But yeah. But so now you have a lot more options. You can make it look really nice. You have more options certainly than you did in the past. So just out of the box.
Just mentioned the content query web part. That was slightly different, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a little bit more. It didn't use search, so it was actually like running a query. Like search
Oh,
was
and it could
the
be
good thing
really
about
slow.
content
It could
search
end up
web
being
part.
really slow if you had like,
Right. The good thing about the content search web part is it's running with the search engine. So when you load your page, it doesn't matter because it's that query is happening through search. Whereas with the content query web part, it's happening when you load your page. So it could be, it could cause performance issues.
but one of the negatives to that content search web part was that people didn't want to have to wait 15 minutes for the next crawl. Or if you're on prem and you had your crawl set for once a day or something like that, then
That was
it was
really,
completely useless, right?
yeah,
Because
yeah.
15
That
minutes
that
was as soon as it would show
wasn't until
up.
the it's like once people started to figure out the intermittent crawl, where it happens like very quickly, then that it got better. But before that, yeah, it was kind of a pain.
Yeah, so and now online it's almost, I mean, not instantaneous, I don't think, but almost instantaneous. So, yeah. All
Yeah,
right.
very fast.
So I'll pick some different settings here and talk about kind of what it has. So, when I pick all sites, then I'm picking what kind of content am I rolling up from all the sites. So if I'm rolling up documents, that's not just Word documents. So documents just means really files in all the libraries, just files. And then once I pick documents though, then it gets down to specific types of documents, document type. So now you can see it looks much prettier when I've got importance of puppies for people of all ages. I like that. It looks much better when I've got some PowerPoint presentations because they usually have graphics in them. And then, documents and spreadsheets are going to look really boring. So, yeah. So, whoo, yay, look, a bunch of spreadsheets and little squares. So, I'll put it back on. So, I'll put it on PDF. Oh, PDFs look kind of nice. So then, so you can add multiple ones though. So I've got it showing documents, but I can also make it show pages too, or events too. So you can get granular about, you don't have to just only show documents in the web part or only show pages or news, or you can kind of mix them all together. Now, as just a best practice, it's probably a good idea, though, Joelle. What do you think about having separate web parts? Like have a web part that says, here are the presentations from this week, and another web part that says events. And that way you don't have a big jumble of stuff, right? Maybe?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I do that not even with holiday content, but even with news. Like sometimes you have like a news web part that rolls up everything, and then you might have like an HR news, and you want to like how you can have those on the same page just with different settings. So it's kind of the same with this.
Okay. So then now it's rolling up documents and pages. And so again, you can just pick and choose, and so you can add a different document type too. So you don't have to only roll up PDFs, you can roll up all PDFs and all Word documents and add another one and get specific about what you're rolling up. So again, you used to have to write all that query, that mess of knowing that KQL syntax to be able to do this in the content search web part. So then you can even do, I'm gonna go down to like the layout part first before I get into, like, because we could really get into the nitty gritty with the filtering. But you have this grid, is visually that's the way it shows by default, and it says it's going to show how many items at a time. I can just change that to 20, and then you can see it fills up my screen. So that's my grid, but then I've also got a list, which is a lot of people that they're used to just having like nice simple roll-ups from the classic view, like feel nice and comfortable just having this simple little list in the web part to be able to just see it. There's no configuration of it though. There's no configuration of which columns you're going to see when you're rolling up content like this. Now let's see if I change this. Let's see if it makes a difference if I just say this site or a document library on this site. Yeah, no. There are different things. There are things that are going to change that you can do. Aren't there, Joelle, when you have content on this site or a specific library versus everything? Like the filters are different or something?
Yeah, you have more filters if you're just doing it from this site. Like you have more, like you can do metadata and stuff like that.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, because the metadata is not going to exist necessarily across all the sites, or at least.
Yeah, and that's exactly like I think where you might want to step in. You might have to step into KQL because that would be like if you had a field, you could then map it in your search schema, which is a whole other complex thing. But you could map it in your search schema and then use it across all the sites. So I could do something like that. But yeah, just with out of the box, I believe you're kind of stuck to. It has to be on the site to be able to do those kind of filters.
Cool. Okay, so then I'll just leave it on all sites so I can have more content that I can see here. And then the carousel is very fancy, but I don't know if you would want to have a carousel of like a bunch of really ugly Word documents. You might. So that's a carousel. And a carousel might look nice if you've got something like images. So if I've got all images from a lot of sites, let's see. There we go. So that's a nice looking little slideshow, a carousel of images. Now the carousel is not something that's going to automatically go from picture to picture. It's one that you have to click on. And there are also different things, different ways to do images. So there's an image web part. There are other things you can do with images. So this is just one way, just one sort of possibility. And then you have a film strip. And a film strip is going to give you these little dots across the bottom. So film strip's going to give you smaller pictures, and it's going to give you a little bit more metadata in here. Did you notice in Ignite, Joelle, did you see anything major that I could have sworn that, or maybe I dreamed it, that they were going to have some sort of interactive little template where you can define what you wanted these to look like. Did you see anything about
I feel like when we were just talking about that, I feel like there was something, but I don't remember off the top of my head.
Anybody
Let
in
me
here that went
see.
to Ignite?
Yeah, I think there's a user voice. I think who posted that? Colleen posted a user voice that sounds like, yeah, so it looks like there's a user voice out there that they're working on it to be able to do like camel.
So Lisa, the answer to your question about the limit of images is going to be down here. It says show up to this many items. I'll just type a 9. Oh, look, 500. So 500 is the limit. There you go. There's your answer. Now, this very last little setting down here, it says hide this web part if there's nothing to show. So that's going to be if you've got a very specific subset of information, and say you're looking at news or images, and the person looking at this web part doesn't have access to that data, people are not going to see content in this web part that they don't have access to. That's really important to remember. So you're rolling up content from all your sites. Don't worry about, even though you say all sites, don't worry about people seeing stuff that they wouldn't be able to have access to. They're not going to. This is based on search. When they do a search in SharePoint, they're not ever going to see stuff they don't have access to. It's important to do permissions correctly. But so if you're saying like, I want to show all rolled up images, and the person looking at this web page doesn't have access to any of the locations that the images are coming from. So some people might see the images, but some people might not have access to any of that content that's being rolled up, and they might not see anything. So this setting, this very last setting down here, hide this web part if there's nothing to show, that is going to be what you would do if, for those people that aren't going to see any content in the web part, they just won't see the web part at all, which is really nice, because then you're not going to have to worry about people seeing like some big blank box and them calling you and asking you what it's for, right? Somebody said nightmares. Valerie dreams about SharePoint and Power-Ups all the time. Yeah, that's funny. Doesn't everyone dream of SharePoint? Duh, right? Y'all are so funny. Okay, I love the conversation. Y'all are a blast. All right, so that's what you can do. You can completely hide if there's nothing to show. So that's what's what they mean by if there's nothing to show. So now let's look at, we'll get into the filtering and sorting. So right now I have it on all sites. So what I can do is filter by title includes these words, content includes these words, recently added, recently changed, created by, modified, managed property. Now I'm going to go over all these. So title includes these words means, so if you want to have like modern, so I can see that some of this content has modern, and that is the title right there. See where it says modern demo site, test modern. So that's where you're gonna be able to filter by the title. But then you can get even more granular, and the content includes these words. So I have a lot of content probably that has the word test in it. So that's in the document. So that's words in the document. So if I have any documents that have the word legal in them, then those are gonna show here. So that's really, I don't remember seeing that before, Joelle. Do you? Content includes these words. That's a good one. That's fancy.
Yeah, they've added some new filters in there, I've noticed. Even a document library on this site, I feel like wasn't there originally, because I feel like I did use like a query for that at one point, but now it's there.
Yeah.
So
Nice. Recently added. So the thing you can do is you can have, say, like, when was something recently added. So I could say if things were added, if I'm filtering this to only show things that were recently added last month, or I can just call this web part recently added pages. Or if I am showing documents, I can say call it recently added documents. So that way you could potentially create multiple web parts, and you could have one called recently added documents that's got recently added as the filter. You can have one called recently changed documents, and you can have recently changed as your filter. So you can have just different web parts, each showing just a few things that show some of the most recent things, just an idea. And then you can have created by. Now, created by has a current user. So that's pretty new too. That didn't used to be in there. So created by current user. So I want to show everything from all the sites that was created by the current user. So then you can call this my recent documents, or my recent images. You see what I'm saying? So then this whole thing is filtered. Oops. To this one's showing images from all sites and created by the current user. Pretty cool, right? All right, so that's huge, because current user, I've seen it. That was something that I was really looking for, and it was missing when the highlight content web part was newer. So that's a good one. Created by, and
yeah, we have one.
What was that?
Oops. So I was just gonna say I'm still monitoring Slack for now.
Oh, you are?
Won't last forever, guys. Yeah, but we do have a question over there whenever you're, like, a suggestion of something to try. So if you want to, just let me know when you're ready.
Okay, you can tell me.
Yeah, so they asked if they had a custom column in their page library on their site where, like, something was tagged with an announcement, could they use a highlighted web part or highlighted content web part to roll those pages up?
So how it had it had metadata?
Yeah, they added a column and tagged certain things as an announcement. Mm-hmm. Just something.
So if you and those are only in that one site, so that depends. So because we're kind of getting into the filter, so I'll show the filter right now. I've got it on all sites, and I'll show you how different the filter is from all sites till we go down to one specific one. So right now I've got source is all sites, and I'm going to go down to my filter, and I can do manage property. So manage properties, Joelle, I'm going to let you explain what managed properties are, since you've worked with them way more extensively than I have.
Yeah, so managed properties are essentially what do they call them? Attributes. So basically, when the search server indexes content, like a document or a list item, the columns or the associated information about that item are considered attributes. And they can be columns like we're used to creating, or they can be even like more granular things like this file size and stuff like that. So basically, you have the ability to go and take one of those attributes and map it to a managed property, and then use that managed property in these queries. So that way you can actually like map one of your custom columns to a managed property, and then you can utilize it here to filter by it. So like, let's say if, you had a custom column you're using across the board, in many different places, you can map that and then use that managed property to kind of filter and query and things like that. So hopefully that kind of explains it.
So in that example that someone was giving about tagging something as an announcement, whatever, if you have some special column you've created that you're using as like the category of it or something, you can create that column like with the same name across like all a bunch of different sites, and then make it a managed property, and then that way you could roll it up from all your sites.
Yeah, you could definitely do that. The one thing is I think, like, depending on your settings, like you were talking about with like the source, I think you can actually, if you're just pointing directly to that library, you can actually you don't need a managed property. Okay. I was pretty sure.
But if it's
I think it'll let you just.
Them, you might...
But if it's like more, across multiple sites or whatever, then that's what a managed property would be. Would be the only option really to allow you to do specific metadata filtering, the custom column filtering.
Oh, okay. So while she was talking about managed properties, I just typed a word in, a word that I happen to know that is in a few managed properties, and then if you know the name of it, you kind of have to type something, because this drop down is not going to show all of them because there are just way too many. So you kind of have to know some word in, something in it. So when I type in search, then when I'm searching for a managed property, then this drop down shows several different options of managed properties called author. So then I can say author OWS user. I think that is I think that's like the people picker of whoever the created by, right? Just off the top of my head, I think that's what it is. And then you can't do, so if you're using like a people managed property that is not just like the little created by that had current user, then you want to do current user, I think equals me doesn't work, but contains me. Yeah. So is that a new interesting tidbit for people that wanted to find something new and amazing about the highlight content web part? They let you do me in here. It's just you have to use contains.
So do they have today?
Huh?
The today option like we used to have?
I think that
I'm curious.
When it's a date, see what's a good date managed property, like due date. Let me clear that out. Isn't there one called due date? Let me see.
I would just do and see.
Created date equals, let's see, due today. Wait, now. It was called now, right? Wasn't it? Or was it today? God, I don't even remember.
I think it was today. Yeah, I thought it was today, but maybe not. Maybe I'm wrong.
I don't know if anything in here was created today, though.
Oh, okay. I was just curious because I knew that was the other. Me and today were the two that we used to use a lot.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. I'm not sure about that. You would think it would. I guess I would have to have better test data to. I think I have stuff in here that's created today. Anyway.
Yeah, Valerie had actually pointed out for that specific scenario, the person was asking for site pages, that when you actually, because we were talking about if you specify a specific library, if you have a specific library, whether it's pages or not, with the pages one, you'll see page properties as an option, as like a filter option.
Okay, so let's go to that next. So this site, and then pages. And you have to pick a type, which is like, no, you don't. You can just do all. So if I do all, is it going to have
Yeah.
that, or I have to be down to
I
a
think
specific
it's,
library?
let me look at
Let's
the other
see.
screen. I think it's you actually under the source, it's the page library on this site is an option.
Oh, okay. Yep, the
Yeah,
page
there it
library
is.
on the site. So then I've got pages and news of the different types of things, but then the filter, page properties. Yep, there it is.
Yeah, which are basically columns that you're
Yeah.
creating in the site pages library. So that would answer
Okay.
the
So
person.
I've actually got a different site in here that I did create other columns on. I can go try that in a second. So yeah, so if you have created any columns that you've created in your pages library in this site, and you use the page library in the site and pages, then you can do page properties. And let's see, news will probably also give you page. Yeah, news also gives you page properties. So that's going to give you any columns that you have in that list, that with library, sorry. Any extra columns will be showing right here for you to pick from. So it would be like, department or whatever you call it equals something. And then sorting is also, it has most recent, author, name, and title. It doesn't have many options for sorting, right? And then we did a whole other power hour about the concept of audience targeting. So I'm not even going to delve into audience targeting. I'm pretty sure the only thing that's changed in audience targeting since we did the power hour was the fact that now navigation can be audience targeted. But I don't
Yeah.
think the audience targeting concept in this web part has changed since then. So I'm not going to redo that.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's all of our filter options. And I'll go to a different page that has page properties. I'll do that like in a few minutes. But you can also add extra filters. So you don't have to just say title contains this or date is this. You can add multiple filters. So that lets you say, I want to say title includes the words modern. Let me change this back to pages. I think I have more. Yeah, I have more pages in here. Title includes dynamic. That's that demo I was doing about the dynamic, the Webpart connections, the new Webpart connections. And then you can say, and then this does an and, doesn't it? Do you know off the top of your, I think it does an and. Let's see. No, it's an or. So this is an or. So the filters that you type in here, it doesn't have to be title include dynamic and the title includes highlighted. It's title includes dynamic or highlighted. So it doesn't say or in here, but that is what it's doing. And then you can say, of course, how you want to sort it by. Now, this is the fun part, right, Joelle? The custom query. So the custom query is for who is still using the classic web parts, the roll-up web parts, and this is blowing your mind because you're excited about moving to the highlighted content web part because you didn't realize you could do all these things in modern, and now you realize you can do all these things in modern, and now you're gonna get rid of the classic and go to modern. Yay. Okay, so if you are still used to that old stuff that you can do in classic with the filtering, and you just need to be able to do that, you need to be able to just create a modern page and just take whatever query, whatever fancy complicated query you had in your content search web part, and just copy and paste it over to a modern highlighted content web part. This is where you get the equivalent of that. So I have custom
What
query.
you don't
I
get the
still have
equivalent
source.
of.
What was that?
I was just going to say what they don't get is their display template, though. So just keep in mind. If they have like a very fancy display
Oh,
template,
yeah.
just something.
Yeah, you
something to
still
keep in
just
mind.
get these.
Yeah.
I'm sure those will get you everything you need, right? I can't think of
Yeah,
anything those
definitely.
don't cover except, other columns besides those 3 or 4. If you need to just have some special columns in your thing. All right. So you pick your source just like you did in the other one, and then you've got some query text. And Joelle, I think, has some examples or concepts to talk about in here.
Oh yeah. So with the KQL.
And there are several things you had to, the only way you could do it was with complex syntax, like you mentioned, but now you can just do it in the regular settings.
Yeah, so one of the examples that I have done in the past is wanting to point to a specific document library, and that is now available in the regular filter. And so with those kind of things, you can do like path, like just type in the word path and then put a colon and then the URL to the library, just directly to the library, and that'll actually pull all the files from the library.
Instead of
So you have
just
a
this
lot of different
site or
options.
this library. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, now it has that though. So like that's like
Yeah.
that was one of the like common ones I would end up doing that, but it like I said, it has it. So I think the biggest use of this is going to be if you do have the managed property situation, and you need to be a little bit more custom than what the other side gives you. So if you do have like a managed property where you've mapped an attribute in your search schema, then you can use that here and write a query for it. If in fact you can't accomplish what you need to accomplish on the other side using the drop downs and stuff like that, that would be one of the things that you would use this for. And the only thing I only use KQL. I don't use Camel.
Yeah,
Camel
so
for
why does
some
it say
reason
camel?
confuses
Can you
me.
not use KQL in here?
You can use both. You can
Oh,
use either or. Yeah. So some people really like Camel, and that's the way they write those queries. I don't do those. I just
oh,
tend
the
to
camel
tend
is
to
like
mess
the
up
query that
Camel.
you use when you're doing in Flow, when you need to
Yeah.
do a get items action and you need to
Yeah.
only bring in certain
Exactly.
items.
Like by the EQ and all that stuff like that. Yeah. So those kind of things you can do in here, but I tend to just do like the KQL because I find it easier.
KQL. It's called like keyword query language or something. Yeah. So I'll put a link to that in the chat. But yeah, that's what that is. But that's cool that it says camel, but that's good to know that even though it just says camel, that you could write either one of those kind of queries.
Yeah, it depends on what your source is, I believe. Like what source you select is what it will tell you what option you
Oh.
have. So like if you
Oh,
do
look at
this site, I
that.
think it says
I change
KQL.
it to this
Yeah.
site and it changes to KQL. That's not
Right.
confusing. But it would take both of them
Yeah.
either way?
I don't know. I don't
Oh.
know if it has to say it
Oh.
in order to take it. I think it
Okay.
does. Usually I just leave it on. Whenever I'm using KQL in this situation, which is very rarely now, like I said, it does a lot of what I need it to
Oh,
do on the
okay.
other side. But when I have, it's been, I just leave
Okay.
it as this site and then specify everything else in the query.
So it used to be something like path, colon, and then you had to put your site in quotes. Like,
Yeah, you could just, like, if you go grab a library, like, or grab the URL to a specific
I just grabbed the
library.
URL to the site pages library that I'm in. Is that what I do? Oh, yeah. So I just said path, colon. And then, so that is one way you could do it instead of picking the name of the library from the dropdown. So that was the old way of
Yeah, it's
doing it.
really just here in case those filters don't really do what you need them to do, like, or you can't quite put them in the right order, because you can fully customize this. So you can, do path, and then if you need to remove a certain file type, you could put that in with like a minus. Like then if you need to specify a specific page property, you can do that. You know what I
Oh, yeah.
mean?
Oh,
You can
yeah.
write a full query, like a full query that does a bunch of different things to filter it. But like I said, a lot of that can be done on the other side, so it's kind of on the filter side. So
Well, I just thought of a one that you might need. You might need to have a document library on this site, like a specific URL, and a specific other document library, just those two
yeah,
things. So then you could go
yeah,
to some other
exactly.
site. Let me just go to another site. This other site. And let's see, I've got a bunch of stuff over here. This is my test stuff. And let me grab, where did it go? Oh my gosh. So I've got like this statement of work library test thingy. So then I want to show specifically the documents in this site pages library, and so it's like an and like that. Path colon like that. Let's see. No. What is the and? It's not and. It's not a capital and.
Yeah, let me go.
Or is it just, oh, you just put a space between them. Is that what it is?
It might be just that simple.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you don't even need to do an and. You just write them one after the other. And then there's all your stuff. Cool. So that's an example. And then like Joelle said, you could do and, you know, the department column equals HR. And, you know, and you can just add a bunch of, like, make it really complicated, right? Let's see, what do we have? And then what if I change it to this site? It still says KQL. What was the one that changed it to Camel? Oh, the page library on this site changed it to Camel. So like title EQ highlighted.
Yeah, and that's why I don't like Camel.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of other stuff with Camel. You have to have like all the syntax, like the little parentheses and the little all that stuff.
Oh yeah, maybe it's supposed to be single quotes or something.
It's got like those like little brackets or those little like I can't remember the official name of those things, but let me grab I think I have.
Like I said,
that's why I always stick with.
Okay, so now I'm going to go to the concept that we talked about with a specific library. Now, I can't do a specific, okay, so the only way to do a specific library that is not on this site where the Webpart is either show the Webpart only on that other site or to do that query that I just showed you with the path. So that's probably a good example of a common thing people are going to want to do is just show a document library from somewhere else in a different place.
Yeah, exactly.
And so if you don't want to have to go, like, if I go filter and I can just say select sites, and this other site is called demo, and I just pick demo. The problem with this is it's going to show everything from the other site. It's not going to let me, the only way to narrow it down is by the type of content or by doing one of these filters on metadata. So the only way to make it just not narrow it down by metadata, but narrow it down just to show a specific library is to go over to that custom query. Is that a common thing you all do? Yeah, you still do need to make sure that they have access to the other site. I mean, they are not going to be able to see content in here if they don't have access to it.
Yeah, it won't roll up.
What was that?
I said it just won't roll. They won't see it there.
Yeah, it'll just be empty, and then that's where that little checkbox comes into play, where then they would just see nothing. They wouldn't see the web part at all. So at least they wouldn't be confused if that was the case. So I'll go to this other web part, this other library. This other site. And let's go to my site pages library. And this is an older site. This has been around. You can tell by the little icon next to site pages. And then I've got, let's see if I've got any extra metadata that I added to it. No, I didn't. I'm trying to remember if I think I had one called Modern Sites Modern. Let me check this one more. If it's not in there, I'll just go add it. It's not a big deal. As far as the metadata, yeah, there it is. So I'm pretty sure we did this when this is the one we used when we did the audiences power hour. But as you can see, I've got department, and this page is associated with the Department of IT. And I can use my lovely, what now I can't use grid view on this library because I've got it grouped. So I can't use the grid view when I'm looking at a grouped list. So I can just go to this all pages view, and that way I can go edit in grid view, but I need to add the other columns first. So if I want to, let's see, I've got my department. I'll just use department, and that'll be like my metadata that I want to filter things by. And so I'll just say department, and I'm just going to type it in. Now the thing about this is I think the search is pretty fast, but this might not be instantaneous since I'm putting the metadata on it right now. IT, and then HR, accounting, HR. I use IT and HR a lot. Oh, see, look at a lot of these are they're checked out, like they've never been published. So let's see. The ones that are checked out, I might not see them if they've never been published. There, I think I've got a good bit of each one. So now on this site, I'll go to my page that I've already created called Highlighted Content, which I created a long time ago. And I'll just delete whatever's already on here. Ooh, that's messy. That is a really old page. I'm just going to delete that whole page. Apparently this highlighted content web part that I created like 3 years ago is not functioning anymore. Okay, new page. Now the purpose of what I'm doing now is to add the highlighted content web part and use metadata to filter it. So on this site I've got pages, and then it wasn't this site, it was the page library on this site. That was the specific one that we're using. So if you just go to pages, if you just go to documents and pages, it's not going to give you the same concept that we're about to show, I don't think. Page properties is what we're looking for. Let me see. Let me double check. So this site, pages, yeah. Oh yeah, no, it's got manage property. It doesn't have the same options. So if I go to a page library on this site and pages, let's see if I have how much news that I have. I only have one news page, so I'll just do pages. And then I've got page properties. So property name, department. So this is where we have customers that have done some special things with these properties, though, haven't they? Like as a standard across the board, so that they could use this like in a more efficient way. Joelle, didn't they? They had like a page author and like some special metadata they were adding to all their pages.
Yeah.
So that way they
Down
could,
there.
they just kind of did this on every site. Or I don't know if it was something they deployed, maybe, or if it was just something they encouraged people to do on every site.
Yeah, they had I think they did deploy like through like a site design to like add the column. But then what they had is they just created a news template, and then they had like the page properties web part on that template, so that way it would show up, and then the user would have to populate it because they would see it on the in the web part. You know what I mean? So they would then go and populate, like prompt them to populate it. So that's kind of how it worked.
Oh, okay. Oh, Danny says she uses this a ton. Oh, great. Well, yeah, let me know. A couple of examples that you all have. I guess Lisa, let me know what you all. I kind of missed. I'm kind of behind on the conversation over here, but yeah, let me know what you use these for. That's great to give everybody ideas. Lisa says I've used this on news pages to decide which news items will roll up to the internet homepage. Oh, so you just use a special piece of metadata, something like category equals roll up, or a column called "What to do with this" equals roll up. I'm just kidding. So yeah, whatever you want to call your column, then use it as a standard. So I'll just say department equals and type IT. So now I've got my property department equals IT, and now this web part is showing me everything that I've categorized as IT. And of course, if I had created department as a drop-down box, that would be a much more better standard way of doing it, and that way you wouldn't have to worry about somebody freeform mistyping something. So then I can I'll sort it by the title of the file, and then I'll publish that, and I'll show you what Joelle's talking about with the page properties. So then if I go to this IT page and I go edit the page, I can add the page properties web part. And then when I add the page properties web part, I have to tell it what property I want it to add. So I can add, say, departments, and I can also add this other one that I created called page owner, which is a people field that I don't think I populated, but there's my page properties. So now look at that. So now when people are reading this page, I'll republish it. They can see these properties, and notice that I put one called page owner on there and it didn't have a value in it. It didn't even show it. It didn't show a big empty anything in there. Oh, Valerie even put in a screenshot in here of hers. Oh, nice. That looks lovely. Are you sure that's the highlighted content web part though? That looks like a quick links web part. If that's a highlighted content web part, Valerie, you'll have to tell me what setting you used for that, because that looks... I'll put it on the screen and see. That's her table of contents. The quick links...
Oh, she just said she added a TOC, so I think that's just quick links.
Oh, okay. The quick links web part is really... It's more powerful as far as, like, you can make it look 100 different ways. Like, you can make it look really cool, but it's all just hard-coded links. There's nothing dynamic about it. But it is definitely has much prettier options in it than the highlighted content web part. I guess with highlighted content, how pretty it looks depends on how pretty the content is.
Yeah. One thing I like about the quick links that I think people miss, which is actually really like it's very small, but it's a little trick, is that you can actually go, like, let's say if you have a document library and you have like 10 documents in that library that you want to show in a quick links web part, you don't have to go grab each individual link. You can actually go into the add a link, go to the library, select all 10 files, and it will add 10 links. And then it's like done. It's done. Then you can go ahead and change the layout and everything like that. A lot of people don't realize that, and
I'm so glad I came to Power Hour today. I would have missed. I did not know.
Yeah, it will save you a lot of time if you're just needing to display some documents and you want them to be in the quick links instead of highlight content.
That's huge.
It'll save you some time.
Yeah, thanks, Joelle. What do y'all think about that? That's awesome. Okay, that's really cool. That is a huge time saver. Great tip. Lisa says great tip. I'll talk to you later, Lisa. She and I have a meeting. Let's see. Okay, so we've got the properties showing. We've got 6 minutes left, so we kind of stretched this out. What other settings in the highlighted content web part did we not deep dive into that I might have missed? Let's see. Let me go back to my page. Oh, A. Hershey says, say that slower. Oh, well, I can just show it. Let's see. I'll just demo what Joelle just said. Okay, so I'll go to the quick links web part, not link. So that's that one thing I've seen people do accidentally is they're looking for quick links. It's not the same thing as the link web part. So quick links, and then you go to add a link. Oh, stupid thing. Let me just save that.
Screen share, Joy.
And it disappeared. What? Oh, because it didn't have anything in it. I've seen these acting up lately too. These Webparts. See now my screen is being
It's
all
screen
weird.
share. It's like I've been on a couple of sessions where it's stuff like that has happened. There's some
Oh, okay.
weirdness with the.
Really? Okay. So I
Yeah, I've seen
published
that. I've had
it,
that happen.
and then I'll try and edit it again. So it's because of the screen share that I can't click this. That is weird.
Yeah, usually it's not that bad. Usually a refresh will do it. That's strange.
So I didn't refresh it though. So let me just do like a hard refresh. um, oh, one of your users wants to show the author and not the last person who edited the file. That would be nice, but it doesn't let you pick which
Yeah,
fields you show, unfortunately.
not yet.
It's very granular as to what you can do with what data shows what data you roll up, but not so granular
Yeah,
when it comes to how you show it, unfortunately. Oh, there we go. Add a link. So you said you can just I
you go to
select
site.
a bunch of them, right?
Yeah, or you can do it there. Yeah, but if you go to the site, so if you that site one on the left hand side will take you to your document libraries.
Um, which one? Oh, site. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, just to show
So if
you.
I have documents that I want to link to, I could select them all.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh. So let me
And then they
try
all
again.
get added
Usually you
at
don't want to
once.
hard code just as a best practice. You usually don't want to hard code links to documents though, because those change so much. Maybe. I mean, I guess
Not
if
in
it's a
this
communication
situation.
site, they might not. What?
Yeah, and this is not it's not a hard link. This is a relative link. So when if
Oh.
it changes, it's going to change. Like if they
Oh,
change that
nice.
file, it's going to change. You know what I mean? If they rename
Oh,
it or
okay.
something, it's still going to be linked.
So let me go to project files. Well, I'll just go to documents because it's got a few more in it. So select all my documents, click open. Look at that. See, this is what Joelle's talking
Yeah.
about. Did you miss it? So I just I clicked add links, and then I selected a bunch of things at once. So that's the key. And then you just click, open, and it adds them all. So I'll do it again. I'll go add links, and I'll go to my site and just go to this library and selected them all and click open. So then it just added them. So then what you can do is the fun part where you're making it look pretty. So then you can go make your web part look like buttons. And I like making the buttons have a little fill color. And instead of having the icon that represents a document, which is kind of ugly, I like going and picking specifically which icon each one is going to be. But it just by default, it gives you just the icon of whatever the file type is.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Lisa's
Exactly.
asking, is it the GUID link for each file? That's a good question. Like, how does it do the permalink thing? That's neat.
Yeah, I think it might be because I've noticed that like if you
Oh,
rename it,
like
I
the
mean
sharing link?
it stays connected. Yeah, yeah, whatever link that they are using. I mean, I know that they've pretty much changed that anyway, so that those links tend to work. They're like obviously like there's like a hard code link you can still get to, but they don't. That's
Yeah,
not
well, if they
really even
delete
as
the
easy to find
file,
anymore.
then that might be a problem.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, so that's where you can go in here and just make them look pretty, look however you
You can
want.
change the name there
Oh
and
yeah, you can see
description
you
on
can change what it
it.
says.
Yeah, and that won't change the file. That'll keep the file will still have the
Cool.
same name and everything. So
Yeah, so it's still just a link to the file, and then this is a description. And then if you we'll go to a different one and add a description, stuff about it. And then this is just another thing that you can do with the quick links web part is you can toggle on the show descriptions. So then like if I put it on compact, doesn't have show description, but button does. And then how
yep,
you
you.
have alignment, align it, and stuff like that.
Yep.
Yep, so that was Power Hour about quick links and highlighted content.
Bonus.
All right, well, I guess we got to run. Thanks, everybody, for coming. Let me flip it back over. That wraps it up. We stretched out a single web part to a whole Power Hour. I think that's how we started out Power Hours, by doing like a web part per power hour a long time ago. Or,
All
that's
I
how I
remember
started my
about our
blog.
yeah, and if anybody ever goes back and watches our old ones, the first few are so like put together with like presentations and PowerPoints and like those first few we did, like you could just tell we were all like like super ready to go. It's pretty funny.
The first blog post I ever wrote was about the Outlook Web Access web part, which doesn't exist anymore. So,
Nice.
yeah. All right, cool. Thanks everybody for coming. Over and out.
Thanks everybody.